Well, happy, beautiful, amazing day. I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, and welcome to this edition of the Dr. Bob Rakowski podcast. I've got Melanie Jolicoeur, if I said that right, and what that means is beautiful heart. That's how it translates in French, which, by the way, one of my best mentors was actually George Boncoeur, good heart. So I have some experience with that. I really like beautiful hearts, and you certainly have one. Welcome, Melanie. How are you on this epic day?
Hello. What a beautiful intro. Thank you so much. I'm super great. I'm having every day is a little bit of a magical day here. So I'm just surfing the wave right now and embracing every second.
Well, and you're in the jungle, right? So where are you in our wonderful world? Where did you start, and how did you get to where you are?
Oh, that question just took another level right there. Where did you start? It's like, it's funny because I when I explain this, I always say, 12 years ago, I left for 1 month, it's kind of that thing where I thought I would leave for a month and it's been 12 years. I'm kind of on the road. So it's a bit of a story, but I left 12 years ago thinking I would just travel.
You were where? Somewhere in Canada, right?
I was in Canada and Quebec. Yes, I'm from Quebec, the French part of Canada. And I had a company. I had my dance school, and I was in couples of projects at the same time. My life was very busy. I also had, I was really close to my family. And at this time, I was a caregiver. My dad was sick for 10 years through cancer. And so I dived into the world of traditional medicine. I dived into the world of a beautiful heart journey with his path, understanding the power of the heart, getting out of the head and just tuning into the power of the heart. Seeing him through 250 chemo was really an inspiring journey. And then after this, I had other people in my close family that passed, and I was kind of at that place at one moment where those people close to me have passed, and I felt like it was time for me to discover the world in a whole different way. Like I had the chance to be alive. I had one more day. Every time I woke up, I had one more day. This is what all of this experience brought me to remember how much life is precious. And I had like this, I was like angry for life, and I just wanted to live fully for those that couldn't. And it's like if all the conscious fear just kind of went away, and I just wanted to explore life as much as I could. And so I left for 1 month, 12 years ago. And yeah, one thing led me to another and to another. And the first trip I did was very special. It was, the third trip I've done was in the desert of Morocco, where I had to walk in silence for many days. And this is where everything came into me, telling me like what's happening in this world. Why are we so sick? How come a big part of my family just died from cancer? I want to understand the human experience. I want to understand what is out there as well that can help other than traditional medicine. And so this calling went really deep into me, and I felt like this is what I want to devote my life to. And if I need to travel the world to figure it out, then I'll just be led by whatever wants to lead me wherever. And wow. So I said yes to that. And then, one place to another, I started living in Slovenia. At the beginning, I was more into Europe, Slovenia, Italy, Croatia, in all these areas. And then I got into England for a little bit. Then I went to live into British Columbia and back to Quebec for a little bit. Then Asia for 6 years. And Dubai, north of Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, a small little village in the Emirates Arab UAE. And then I went to Costa Rica, lived for 1 year, got back to Thailand, and now I'm in Mexico. It's kind of a crazy journey. So now I'm in Zipolite.
I want to dive in on some of those points. There's several things I want to say. So one, I have seen plenty of patients that have said cancer was the best thing that ever happened to them, because it made them appreciate life. Now, your father going through 250 chemotherapeutic treatments. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody going through that many. So he must have been amazingly strong and had a will to live. Did he survive that, Melanie? Or unfortunately, did he move on?
He passed in 2009.
Okay.
And I think that it was just kind of this moment where, you know what, I did what I needed to do here.
Yeah.
His journey was just so inspiring. He had a really good heart because this is what kept him alive. I mean, physically and,
He
the
must have
power
had a
of the heart
beautiful
as
heart.
well.
I
In
bet
this,
he had a jolly cure.
I'm sorry.
I said, I'm sure he had a beautiful
Yes,
heart.
yes.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
that's from his name for sure. But he's the only one that survived treatment in North America that nobody survived. So we had experimental treatment that was a bit crazy, and it was,
What type
there
of
was some
cancer?
days that was, leukemia, so cancer of the blood. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the thing that happened is, it was, for him, the more he was sick, the more he wanted to understand. He was a curious man, and I think this is a beautiful quality for everyone, to be curious, to open up, to understand what you have and what's happening with you and what you feel. And that's a beautiful legacy that he left me, to be curious, and he wanted to understand. Sometimes when we don't want to live something, we tend to avoid it and push it away. But for him, it was like, I want to understand, and I want to understand myself as well through that. And so he dived into a lot of holistic things. At that time, there was not almost no internet. I mean, it was still like going all of those noise before you log into it. And then after a little bit, he started to research a lot of things, and trying a lot of different things. And at one point, he said, "Okay, like, you know what, I'm gonna start to listen to the doctor, what he wants to say, and get into the chemo thing, and try to really see it as something that was, working with him, not against him." So, but he was very good into talking to himself, and putting his heart into a place, because they condemned him like 3 4 times. And then I remember one time that he said, it was at this time where all the people that did the experimental treatment died. And I remember at this time, he, like, the priest was in the room, like, saying, this is his last moment and everything. And he looked at us, our family, me, my brother, my mom, and he says, I want to live. And he said, at the time we had a company, an infographic company. So he said, I want you to go to the shop and print a big banner that says, I'm going to live, and pictures of our life that brings me joy. And so we printed so many image and banner and everything, and put it in the room, and then, 3 days after, he was out, and he's the
Wow.
only one that survived. So I could see, like, the power of him just holding on to what he is grateful for, holding on to the joy that something in his life brought him. And I realized the power of love, the power of joy and gratitude in these moments.
Well, I want to add a personal anecdote to that. One of the very first major conferences that I lectured at, the keynote speaker was Bernie Siegel, and he had just finished his book Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And he said the number one prognostic factor to how long a cancer patient would live, or if they would survive, was their answer to the question, "Do you want to live to be 100?" And if they answered, yeah, absolutely, if they really had that will to live, then they had a much better probability. And if they said something like, well, if you could guarantee that I'd be healthy, their probability goes down, because suddenly they're not taking responsibility. So how fun that your dad said, I want to live, and I want you to remind me right here and now of why I want to live. Go bring me pictures, bring me visual reminders. Now, I'm assuming you paid forward that lesson. I want to jump to your walk in Morocco, but one of my favorite quotes is, the longest journey that most people will ever take is the 12 inches between their head and their heart. And your dad seemed to make that journey. You made that journey, but you went for a long walk in Morocco. You were walking in the desert in silence. Tell me about that. What prompted that? And then when did you decide you'd walk far enough? I'm thinking of Forrest Gump going out for a run and then running for years. So,
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I'm just gonna go walk. No, I mean, there's a little intro about this trip. There's something that there's actually, the beginning of this story is really interesting because it led me to this trip. I had two other ones just before that kind of like brought me to the realization of this trip. The first one was, so that trip in Morocco was about in around April 2013 or something. So in September, I found myself in a place where, this place where you kind of close down a chapter of a relationship with someone, and you're in the basement of your parents, and I was going back to this place where I actually took care of my dad when he was sick, and I was living there. And then that night I remember connecting to my dad, and just saying, like, I don't know where I'm going right now. I'm skating out of this relationship. I feel like I don't know who I am. I feel like I've left so much in that, because the relationship was also built around work we had together. So I feel like I was in this place where I was like, I want to do what I want to do for my life right now, not for everyone else and not for the relationship, but really choosing me in this moment. Please guide me into my next direction, And there was kind of this discussion with me, my dad or myself, And so the day after I woke up, and I actually had the worst day ever. When you start your day and like everything breaks, nothing goes well, and my phone was not working, and I had a company I needed to run with my phone. So I got it to a place to fix the phone. And while I was waiting for my phone to be fixed, there's an old man that came into the boutique waiting for his phone to be fixed as well. And I started to talk with him. And the more I talk with him, the more I kind of realized he's a bit bored of waiting for his phone to be fixed. And he's like being mad, saying, I don't know what to do with my money anyway. I should just like go buy another phone instead of waiting here. I'm like, if you don't know what to do with your money, I have some good idea. Let's just chat about this while you wait. And so we start to talk together. And then at the end of the day, I gave him my card, and I say, if you want to invest into your health, I was selling health product at the time, just call me back. I forget about this whole story. I go back home. 3 days after, this man called me. He's like, give me a sales pitch. Let's go for lunch. So we go for lunch and we talk. And then the discussion goes into a whole different direction. And right now I'm kind of curious of what's the story of this man. And what I understand at the end is that when he was young, his mom and his wife died from a car accident. He didn't want to face this. So he worked all his life, like crazy work, construction. He never really lived. And now he's 70 years old. His heart is working 30%, and he's going to die. But he has all the money in the world, but it doesn't mean a thing for him. So he's like, I chose that before I die, I would choose people that I love their energy randomly and ask them what their wish is and make them come true. So he looks at me and says, what's your wish? Is there like an Aladdin lamp, like going, what's your wish, And so it was kind of a really interesting experience. And it's like if my brain was hearing this, but I was like, maybe he just wants to like inspire me. So I didn't believe it in some ways. So anyway, he says, go back home, think about this, call me when you know. And so I go back home. I said, the place that I feel the best in my life, it's on water. This is where I ground myself. This is where I feel free and clear head. So I want to go back on the water to just figure out what's next for me. And my dad was a sailorman, and this is just my childhood. We've been raised on sailing boats. So I said, okay, I'm going to build a plan to go do my card, to go rent a 40-foot boat and go sail, that big dream, So then I do that. I call an old friend of my dad and I say, if you could do your certification of sailing 40-foot boat in the world, where would you go? He puts me in contact with the guy. And the guy just, built a plan with me, the cost, everything. I have the plan. Call back the old man. I got a plan. Go for a lunch with him. And I say, this is my plan. This is a 40-foot boat. This is a certification. I'm going to be on the water doing that. And then having, realizing a dream to sail big boats and to be back on the water like I used to with my dad, And so I said, thank you for inspiring me. I created a budget to get there. I really am grateful for you to inspire me to do this. And so he looks at me and he says, your gift to me is to accept my gift to you. This is what I'm here for. You need to accept this. I need to do this before I die. And he puts a check of the whole amount in front of me. And I'm like, at that time, I never really had a gift like this in my life. So it's a bit hard to accept. But I'm thinking,
Melanie,
it was about 3,000, maybe 3,500 or something. But I never had a gift like this in my life. For me, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, if I was about to die and I could do this for some people and the money didn't mean too much for me, how of a cool thing to do? Like, I was like, I need to accept it. Yeah. And I realized what it was doing to him to do that. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to say yes. Can you just allow me to bring my brother with me? And he says, of course. I just want a postal card. And so I go see my brother. I was like, let's go together. We have the whole plan is made. You just have to buy a a plane ticket and we can go. So me and my brother, we left for the British Virgin Island, the BVI, and we sailed across all the islands doing our certification and just living this, this legacy from our dad. We even brought some ashes, throw in the water. It was just a beautiful trip for me and my brother, and just like embracing the whole metaphor of sailing. It's not about the wind, it's about adjusting. It's about adjusting the sail. It's about, like there's just so much metaphor about sailing that brings you back to connecting with nature, to listening, to hearing, to feeling, so it was just a beautiful, beautiful trip. And when I came back from this trip, I was tagged on a post that they were looking for an assistant captain in Bahamas for a documentary on sailing, and someone tagged me in that. And so that's 2 months after I come back from the BVI, that happened. And so I said yes. And then suddenly I'm there, like flying to the Bahamas, and I'm assisting a captain that sailed across the world for 5 years, and on a catamaran, a 50-foot catamaran. And we're doing a documentary on sail. And I'm just having a beautiful moment, wishing, realizing that I was wishing to travel, but I didn't know how to get there because financially it was not available for me. And so anyway, I do this whole trip. And when I come back, another friend of mine said to me, Mel, I want to go in the desert of Morocco, and I want to do some retreats there, and I want to test the path. And I need someone to test it on, because I'm going to do hypnosis, and I want to test the whole trek, see how it goes and how do we feel it. And I feel like you'd be the perfect person to use to test this trip. So I'm like the yes woman. I'm like, yes, So I'm like, okay. And so I decide to leave with him in Morocco, and we go walk in the desert in silence for days. And at that point, this is where it happened. This is where I had, when you are in silence, this is where you meet yourself. At the beginning, the silence can sound empty, and the desert is empty too, because there's just the sky and the sand. There's no stimulation at all. So you're alone, facing with yourself and with nature in silence, and the stars at night, So it's kind of a really interesting how silence makes you like you're fighting it at the beginning, and at one point you surrender, and then you're just with it, and then you just realize, oh my God, when's the last time I met myself in that depth?
So when you were going across the desert, I mean, did you have a destination? Were you going to an oasis, or just start walking and turn around and go back? I mean,
so we had a guy.
Were you working with your friend, or? Okay.
No, we were the two of us, and we had a guide. We had two. There's a camel that has one, and there's the other one that has two. How do you call the other guy? The dromadaire.
I know there's dromedary and Bactrim. Dromedary is one hump. Bactrim is two hump camel, like a B. B for Bactrim. B has two humps. D for dromedary. D has one hump. So that kind of
Yeah. So anyway, the guys are following us with the I'm going to call it the camel for now, with the camels. And then, so we're walking in front, and they know the path. We don't really know where we're going. They know the path. So we don't really have a destination. We just know that we're going to walk. And they know, but we don't really know, and there's magical moment when you walk, and you're sweating, and it's so hot, and you're tired, and suddenly there's a well. You're just like, oh my God, like taking some water on you. And in the desert, every house is your house. So at the peak of the sunshine, you want to stop and nap. And so you find a house, and then you can enter the house. And if there's people in the house, they'll make tea for you, and they prepare a place for you to rest. If there's nobody, you can actually make tea for yourself and rest. It's just kind of a normal thing. Any house is everybody's house in the desert. It's kind of a weird, normal thing. I think it was beautiful. And so you walk for hours, you stop, you nap, and you keep walking. And then we slept in houses of people. So there was nothing really like touristic. It was really like meeting the people in the desert, like really like local stuff. So I slept into some little rock house, little carpet house, little like all kinds of different places. And yeah, at night we would talk a little bit, but during the walk we would be in silence. And so, so it was a very beautiful journey. And, when I came back from that place, I remember thinking, I've just done the three most beautiful trip of my life. And I think in my account at that time, I mean, I must have maybe just $1,000. Like I didn't have the privilege to do those trips financially. But I remember saying to myself at that night, like, I want to travel. I want to do things that I love. I want to listen to my heart. I want to find a connection with myself. So figure out this next chapter, And I think that sometimes to understand the how breaks us for really realizing it. If we focus just on the joy it brings me, the gratitude, the excitement, sometimes life has magical way to show it up to us. And for me, my experience was so live that I had no other choice to believe. I don't really use the word believe, but to know for a fact that life can support me, because I've just made those beautiful trips and it just happened unfolding organically. And the more I was tuning into my joy, my connection, my trust, the more those experiences kept on going. And that's just the beginning. Now it's 12 years for me traveling the world. And I have so many amazing stories. This is why right now I'm writing a book about it. But I have so many incredible stories that is the most restorative stories to build trust with life. To realize how sometimes surrendering and trusting, because trusting human is very difficult, because all humans are different. Everybody has wound. Everybody has reaction. Everybody has different way to deal with life. And that can be difficult, and we can be disappointed. But when we trust life, it's very different than trusting human. And sometimes it comes into gift into little sandpaper because it looks like all flowers and rainbow. But let me tell you, there's some of those stories I didn't even know if I would live. There is some moment that was really challenging. There is still some moment that are really challenging. I'm not special. I'm not different. I just have a toolbox, that I've created over the years. And every day I got an opportunity to use those tools, but I still am challenged every day,
I'm glad you took that tangent. So one, it's very metaphysical to say that, when we're on purpose, life will deliver us what we need, and so it's not always fun, but it's what we need. Now, I wasn't expecting that spin. You actually were in some very dangerous, maybe even life-threatening circumstances. Are we talking weather? Are we talking predators? Are we talking all the above? Predators in terms of animals, humans? What type of life-threatening circumstances did you get in, and how did you get out?
Okay, I'll tell you one of those in Thailand. In Thailand, I had an experience at one point, and the thing that is really interesting is that I had a big realization, and I wanted to understand more about certain things in life. And I kind of pushed myself into this realization. And at one point, I knew I was going a bit far away. Like, we all have darkness and light inside of us that we want and that we need to explore. And it's part of the journey. And sometimes, you're like, I shouldn't be doing that. There's something that might not be right. But there's something else that was saying to me, well, for some reason, you need to keep going, to go at the depth of that thing. I don't know why, but I knew that I had to keep exploring that thing. But I knew it was unhealthy for me. And at one point, I became sick. And I felt really off into my body. And I was like, okay, maybe I pushed it a bit further there. And I'm going to go check myself out. So I'm in Thailand and I go to the hospital and they put a camera inside of me and they see like this big, I don't know, it looks like a grapefruit, something, it looks like a big, and they looked at me and they're like, we don't really know what that is, but it looks like a tumor. We kind of need to get this out now. So we will operate you in 14 days. It's a bit urgent that we define what that is, briefly. And so I go back to my little room by the ocean and I'm just like, okay, play with fire. And this is what I need to go through right now. Now I'm going to just utilize what I know to take care of that. And so, I go to this place and I buy all the juices and the herbs and the roots and the whatever I know. I've been studying Ayurveda, Chinese, Japanese, Tibetan medicine, all of these things. I start to just incorporate all of it. And now I'm just like deciding to isolate myself a bit more as well, to be with my energy, And I remember that at one point I was just like, was tough. And I couldn't even just to walk from my bed to the blender to blend my juices was like, it took me everything. And I was always bleeding. And I had so many, like, I was like, am I going to survive this thing? And if I'm not, like, am I okay dying? And maybe
Was
something
it
is
a
dying.
uterine fibroid? What was it? A uterine fibroid? Is that what you had?
It was
When
in
you,
my uterus. Yeah, it
it
was a
was a
big,
uterine fibroid, and when you're describing
yeah.
the bleeding, and those can be
So
big. Those can be the size of grapefruits, sure, or
yeah, it
bigger.
was pushing into my spine as well. So my back and everything was just so in pain. And I didn't really want to tell too many people because I didn't want it to have the worry energy. I just wanted to trust that. And I was okay with, if I need to die, I've lived. So I was like, I'm just gonna, for some reason, and maybe subconsciously there was a part of me that didn't want to ask help because it was hard for me to ask for help as well. But there was just a part of me that didn't want the pity and the worry and the whole energy that makes it worse. And so I was just like into this journey and just trusting it. And at one point I remember realizing, because in this room in 14 days, a lot happened. Like I cried, I laughed, I screamed, all of these things, I've lived it all. And at one point I remember realizing, like, I hate this tumor. Like, I'm in war with it. Like, I'm going to fight that. I'm going to battle that. And at one point I remember like just lying down on my back on the tile and just surrendering completely and saying, you know what? I actually don't want to fight, because that fight takes too much energy. I actually want to just listen to it. If it's in my body right now and it's creating something, it needs attention. My body is intelligent. It's there to tell me it's reacting. If that grows, it's because something is happening and it needs my attention. If I'm hating that, I'm increasing everything that's not helping me. So I felt that really clear inside of me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to love you. So I said to this tumor, I'm going to love you. And I just put my hand on it. I was like, having this relationship and this conversation with it, and teach me whatever you want to teach me. When you're ready, you can leave. But right now you're in me and I'm just going to love you. And I every day started to put my hand on it, to massage it, to just give it some space, some attention, some everything that it needs, and to just like love it. And I do believe that with all of the things that I've done in this room, I mean, it's holistic, but I do believe that this thing is one of the most powerful ones that happened. And I got to the day of my operation, and they put me on the table, they put the camera in, and I actually have the picture of the two picture with the dates on it, and you see like this big thing, and then 14 days after there's nothing. And
Wow.
then they're just looking at me, they're like, whatever you did, I mean, where is it? And then you're like, we're just going to still like take a piece inside of you to analyze, because we want to make sure that, and so, so that was telling me, teaching me, okay, you explore something. You got into the depth of it, exploring darkness and light. You lost yourself in it. And then it allowed you to go within, to connect with you at the deepest level, to understand self-healing. And now you have this experience that taught you that. And how many people has this story where they healed about something and now they're inspired? You know what? And at the same time, not everybody survives. And I can die tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
But I do believe that if ever it's your path to die, this is what I told myself. How do I want to die? How do I want to, with peace, with love, with anger and fighting and all of, I just wanted to choose that for myself, and I think that it's not about surviving everything, because that's one thing we're sure, we're going to die. But how do you want to live while you're here? It's not the amount of time you live. It's not the short look. It's how the quality of every day, the people you take time with to connect, the presence, the gratitude, the connection, the honoring of Mama Nature, Mama Gaia, the nature that is there to support us. There's so much things that we forget to the everyday into the everyday life that, like make more money, have more. And we forget about basic stuff that is so abundant for us, And so these challenges, they brings you into a place, a scary place. And if you do approach this with reaction and fear versus approaching it with love and attention, is very different, Yeah.
I do know. I've enjoyed this conversation so much that I even forgot to give a shout out to our sponsor, bettercoffeeshop.com, the world's best organic coffee. No herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, molds, mycotoxins, best organic coffee in the world, bettercoffeeshop.com. Take our 1-box challenge. Melanie, this is so enlightening. The book, I can't wait to read it. We covered in 30 minutes one of the most amazing journeys I've ever heard, from literally finding life to see your dad battle death and realize he wanted to live more, to walking alone in the desert for days on end in silence. Someone else wrote a book about that, to having life-threatening experiences, to traveling the world like Forrest Gump, going for a run one day, but coming, still 12 years later, going back. When's the book coming out? What's next for you, and how can people get a hold of you?
So I'm bringing the book out in French first for my people in Canada. And so, right now I'm in a really beautiful challenge because I'm trying to get it out for, April. The book is called Lost, Feel, Heal. And, it's an interactive book. So it's going to be 30 to 40. I don't know if I'm going to do 2 books or 1, but it's going to be the story, realization, 3 tools of life everybody can relate to. And this is where I'm going to go. I want to go with that. So the story, the realization, and 3 tools of life that everybody can relate to, because I did that into traveling the world. But I want to mention that it's not important. Nobody needs to put everything on the side and travel the world to understand, and to understand certain things of life. Traveling can be from your house to your job. You're traveling inside out. The travel is not out, it's inside. If you travel and you just want to check the box, I seen this, I seen this, I seen this, I seen this, you're going to see some nice things. But if you want to connect within through what you're living, experiencing, traveling inside out, this is what it means. And that travel can be done everywhere. It can be done from your kitchen to your bed. It's the traveling inside, right? So I just want to make it clear for that. So people don't think, oh, well, I cannot go do like she did. All the tools can relate. Everybody can relate into their own life. And it's an interactive book that has QR code in that leads you to. Anyway, I'm going to let the secret for the rest, but you'll see it's going to be a very beautiful one. So in English, I'm thinking this summer it will be out in August. Yeah, but I'm going to put, in April, I'm going to put the pre-order on my website for sure for people that want to pre-order it. Yes.
And your website is? What is your website?
So it's www.melaniejolicoeur.com. Yeah, or you can do, I have so many different domains. You can do travelinginsideout.com as well. It's going to lead you to the same website.
Well, This has been an enlightening and amazing conversation. Congratulations on creating a beautiful life. And you know what? You're just getting started.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful lessons to share with so many people. And I'll finish with the words that I always finish with. I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful. Thank you for a beautiful conversation and your beautiful heart.